Good evening, everyone. It's now 7 p.m. It is April 23rd, 2018. This is the Owen Sound Council meeting. We're now opening our open session. We started approximately 20 minutes ago in a closed session. It started at 6:40. Council reviewed the minutes of closed session meetings held on April 9th, 2018, and the minutes of Community Services closed session meeting held on April 18th, 2018. Council staff first. Is there any additional business?
Through your worship, just one item relating to the home show this weekend.
Good, thank you. Any others? No? Okay. Council? Marion?
Thank you, Your Worship. Congratulations.
Okay. Others? This way. Councillor Thomas?
I have three items tonight, Your Worship. First, some new exhibits at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. Secondly, the annual general meeting of the Community Waterfront Heritage Center. And the third item is the Festival of Northern Lights annual trivia night.
Good, thank you. Any others? Seeing none? Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Anyone? Seeing none. Confirmation of the council meetings. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor McManaman, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on April 9th, 2018, as printed, be adopted.
And all in favor? That is carried. 6B.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Thomas, that the minutes from the council closed session meeting held on April 9th, 2018, as printed, be adopted.
And all in favor? That is carried. Number 7 is motion to move council into committee of the whole.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor O'Leary, that City Council now move into the committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business.
Great, thank you. All in favor? That is carried. So we're now in committee of the whole. We have no public meetings at number 8. Number 9, we've got a full slate of deputations and presentations, so this is a great night. First one up is Nadia Daniak, under the name of Deputy Chief Librarian. Come on up. I don't think she's attended with that name before. So congratulations. Get you to push a little button on the microphone, and then the red light will come on. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Now we can hear you.
All right. So, hello. So National Poetry Month, which is April, began in the U.S. in 1996, spearheaded by the Academy of American Poets on the steps of the post office in New York City. There, the story goes, Academy staff members handed out copies of T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wasteland, which begins, "April is the cruelest month," which doesn't feel that way today, but it did last week. To individuals waiting in line to mail their tax returns. Established in Canada in '98, National Poetry Month now brings together schools, publishers, booksellers, literary organizations, libraries, and poets from across the country to celebrate poetry and its vital place in Canada's culture. We're happy that our Owen Sound City Council has chosen to acknowledge National Poetry Month by including our current Poet Laureate, Lauren Best, on your agenda for this evening. We're lucky in Owen Sound to live among such a wealth of creative talent. The poetic consciousness in this city is strong, and there is evidence that in the continuation of the Poet Laureate project now 10 years in. I would like to thank the Poet Laureate Advisory Committee comprised of Judy Armstrong, Liz Zetland, and Jane Mingay, supported by the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library, and sponsored by David Medill of BMO Nesbitt Burns, Andrew Armitage, John A. Tamming Law, and Elizabeth Warren. One of Lauren's latest projects is Youth Elevating Youth, an initiative that will see local youth engaging and supporting each other in building a creative community. We're also excited to develop plans to engage Lauren in the summer programming plans at the library. Please welcome Lauren Best.
Welcome.
Thank you. Well, in the spirit of Poetry Month and bringing creativity to the forefront, I decided to premiere a poem again tonight, which I did last time I was at council as well. And this is one of the fastest times a poem has gone from completion in my writing to premiering it for a city council. The only time that's happened, but certainly the fastest. And so I'm very glad to be doing that in the spirit of creating more poetry for Poetry Month. This poem is about the weight of words. Words have a life of their own, they say. They travel, stray, catch before they release. I have grown to know I need them written down. I can't remember all of those beautiful things you said, falling through my ears. I fear I won't remember. I can't write it all, though. Goodness, no. It feels the same, though. Our memories aren't that reliable. We play the reel back, like rewind. Funny how, just like you can't yourself fast forward, backwards doesn't last either. We think we got it, clearly captured, but really it's slipping away, water draining. Try to grab and reverse that flow. Remembering isn't as easy as recolored frames, freezable and acclaimed. But somehow words capture not the experience of writing them, but envision light directly those moments, regression, past life, redirection, writing history, or making it undone. Leaving no story left unturned, no song left unsung, driving forward, planning more dreams, directions, drafts, dredging themes, scoring scenes, scattering seeds, branching, repeat. Really, any direction you please. Words I can rely on more than memories. Sorta scary, really. Just a few moments to make collections of words that could amount to more than most of my days. Swept away, hidden or flying, floating on sound waves, fading, souring, or boring. Doesn't take long to make collections of characters that can devastate, decimate, defeat, and liberate. Negotiate, debate, demonstrate, initiate, or complicate, set straight, delineate, mandate, and evaluate. Choose, construct, calculate. When it's written, I can remember, and I can see before my eyes. So, future self and other future selves, to be honest and true, remember, what direction will you point your wand, and what enchantments will you utter? What seeds shall you sow? What do you intend to yield? Do you nourish or deplete the earth that you ask to cradle you, create for you, make safe for you, make do? Where do your words go? Choice. How do you use your voice? Simple, short, clear, counts. Compassion counts. Caring counts. Curiosity counts. Creativity counts. It amounts, starts, sparks, fuels, reflects, and remarks. Little parts. We all know words are arrows we have felt in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Each year we look forward to this night to hear some poetry that we don't necessarily get any other time. Would you mind emailing that to me so I can share it in writing with council so they can see it again?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks, both of you. So at 9B, Mary Lynn West Moynes, President, Chief Executive Officer, and Fred Vacaris, Dean, Owen Sound Campus, Georgian College, and others that are here to support. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for having us here this evening. And I don't know that we can be as thought-provoking. That was absolutely excellent. It's hard when you follow someone who can be as I said, it was quite thought-provoking and a little bit more entertaining than you may find our presentation. So it's a little intimidating to follow you, quite honestly. But I'm delighted to be here this evening, and we're joined by 3 current Georgian Board Governors members, Chair Jim Bertram, our Vice Chairs Brian Davenport and Don Gordon, and of course someone you will know well is our past board chair, Bill Van Wyck. And our sole purpose to be here today is to provide you with an update. That's our purpose for coming. We had a past strategy of doing that where we invited people to the council, and we thought we would try this approach. So we're glad truly to be here. We're led by vision, mission, and values, as most organizations, but I like to think that these 3 things guide, inform, and truly inspire our work. And I like to say, everything we do should be focused on students. And if we do that incredibly well, we'll look after all the other stakeholders that we are connected to. We have 4 strategic priorities in our strategic plan: accelerating success, meaningful collaboration, inspired innovation, and then the accountability piece that is so important to us. And if ever you want to know a little bit more about what our priorities are, we'd welcome you to go to our website and see our strategic plan, but I'd be happy to talk to any counselor about it. You may or may not know we are in 7 different communities. We have one of the largest geographic footprints of a college, and we're very proud that we have 72,000 Georgian college graduates out there in our communities. And you'll see there, this data comes from last fall. We had 1,600 international students, and it's growing, and I can tell you growing quite quickly. I think people have a preconceived notion about colleges, but I like to say we do everything from apprenticeship right through to degrees. And then when you start looking into it a little bit further, we have certificates, we have diplomas, we do diplomas and degrees, we do corporate and workforce training and part-time studies. And I think sometimes the problem is that we have such a wide variety access point for so many different kinds of credentials, is that people don't really understand what their community college can do for them. And just an interesting tidbit for you to know, as of the fall of 2018, this upcoming fall, we will offer 12 degrees at Georgian, and most people don't think of us as a degree granting institution. They probably think of us more for this. We have the #1 graduate employment rate in all of Ontario, so 24 colleges compete for that right. And I believe it's because of a differentiator. We are the largest co-op college in the province, and so that last year we had 6,200 employers who partner with us in our experiential and co-op learning, and quite frankly, we believe that drives the students and graduates to jobs. We're committed to entrepreneurship and social innovation, and a new thing for us is we're expanding in research and innovation. And we like to say that we're doing this because we're trying to keep ahead of where the economy is going and making sure our graduates have the kind of skills that they need to get out there and grow businesses and be integral to the business delivery. Something that happened last year that was unique for us is that we were the first college in Canada to be named as a Changemaker campus as a part of an international accreditation piece, and we're bringing that program to Owen Sound, and you'll see more of that over the next coming year. And now I'll turn it over to Fred Barkas, the Dean of the Owen Sound campus.
Thank you so much, Mary Lynn. At the Owen Sound campus, we continue to expand our programming to meet the needs of the local economy. Along with the programs you see listed here, the campus has become home to an Indigenous resource center, a fairly new fitness center, a high-fidelity nursing lab, library, on-campus residence, power engineering lab, skilled trades labs, a student lounge, and we also have video conferencing facilities and a number of other facilities at the Owen Sound campus. The Owen Sound campus is also known for the Center for Marine Training and Research and the Algoma Central Marine Emergency Duties Center. It is a key differentiator for Georgian and for the campus, the only facility of its kind in central Canada, and we're quite proud of it. In addition to the post-secondary students, we trained 1,965 mariners last year and their visits bring business to the community. They come for short periods of time, anywhere from a day or two to 2 or 3 weeks, and they're quite an important part of our campus. We collaborate with the Owen Sound Fire Department also for shared facilities and training. Other pathways, as Marilyn was mentioning, is that we have the apprenticeship, and those are our current apprenticeships that we offer now. We also have programs in career and academic preparation. We have dual credit school within a college, and we're also exploring TDAs. Again, I've met with a number of you on a number of different occasions, and we're exploring TDAs in electrical, millwright, hairstyling, automotive, and educational assistance. But of course, those will have to go to the government and get approval and some funding for us to be able to offer those in full and sound. Another key element of our programming is enhanced indigenization. We recently partnered with the Huronia Area Aboriginal Management Board on a successful 20-week upgrading and skills-ready training program. And again, last fall, we started an Indigenous pre-apprenticeship program in carpentry that went very well. Currently, we are expanding our workforce development opportunities and can customize programs to meet the local business needs and training needs as well. Examples of recent corporate training in Owen Sound include supervisory skills for the Grey County and municipalities, computer training for Grey Bruce Health Services, and computer training for transcontinental printing. As many of you know, the Georgian Dining Room is an integral part of our campus, and it really is the way we sort of express our the fact that we are part of the community. And we appreciate that the city is investing in the college and in our students. For example, we recently partnered with Owen Sound Transit to offer free and discount bus passes. Again, we talked about the Georgian Dining Room. If many of you have sampled the fare there, it is second to none. And you will help support student learning and also enjoy a delicious meal. And we offer free parking for those who come for the meal this year. I'll pass it back to Mary Lynn.
Thanks, Fred. So I'm going to load a quick video, I hope. No? What did I do wrong there, Lisa? Here, I'll get it. Isn't technology wonderful if you know what you're supposed to do?
2 years ago, and in that time I've gotten my first mate's license, and I've been working as a chief officer, and I'm on track to have my captain's license done by the end of this year. So I work on the Great Lakes, Thunder Bay down to like Chicago, down the Seaway to like Montreal or Quebec. It's a management position. You're making sure that what has to get done gets done. Delegating to the crew that you work with. My dad had wanted to go into the Coast Guard. He never went, and he went to school for something else, and then when I got old enough, he just bugged me until I said I would come try it. He sees all the pictures I take or things that I do, so I think it's nice like that. There's very few female captains, so it would be nice to have that title. It's a very rewarding career.
So we wanted you to see Kelsey because she is, of course, a student in our Marine Technology Navigation program. And it is the program that differentiates the Owen Sound campus in all of Ontario, by the way. We are the only college in Ontario that does do this program. And for me, it really signals the great partnership we have with this community and the amazing support that the college has had over all of our operations. But as you know, in the last 3 or 4 years, we had to all kind of roll up our sleeves to make sure that we were able to maintain that program. We have plans as we move forward, and so let me assure you that we're continuing to make an investment in the campus. Right now, we're put $1 million in capital upgrades into the campus. We're developing a solid sustainability plan because we think that's very important to us. And in fact, as a result of some conversations we've had with the province, we've received funding to have a national conference to look at how can post-secondary be sure they're supporting the communities that maybe are not living in the highly populated areas, because we know how fundamentally important that is to quality of life and economic development. We're trying to be more flexible and accessible to those who want to continue education part-time, making it easier for them to work towards a certificate or a diploma, and we've expanded our part-time credit course participation in programs such as business office admin and law clerk to do that. And of course, another initiative that we're working on with a number of agencies in the local economy is to address tomorrow's training needs, and you will have heard that we've been having some discussion with other stakeholders about the viability of a skills training and innovation center right here in Owen Sound. And this opportunity allows us to continue to move where we think the workforce in your communities are working, and time will tell whether or not that hub next door to us will get off the ground, but we see it as vitally important to our future. So that's a lot in 10 minutes, but we wanted to sort of give you a sound bite of what we are doing. You can always reach out to us at any time. I'd love to hear from you, and of course Fred is here as the campus as well as our board members, because we think it's that relationship with community that makes Georgian better, and we just wanted to make sure that council knew that we really appreciate the support that you give to us from time to time, and that we're open to hear your opinions on how we can do things better. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. I'll give the tough ones to Fred, actually, but happy to answer them for you.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, you've actually got a former governor sitting here.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And I'm really impressed with what you've done and where Georgian is going and the directions. The question I have pertains to the training center.
Right.
How far along are you, and is there anything the city could do to help?
So great question. As you know, the province has allowed the school boards to allow an opportunity for a group to investigate. And so I would say probably sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll all have a better sense of whether or not we're going to be able to put all the bits and pieces together to make a whole, because this really will be a hub. It will be a group of different individuals, but it's checking a whole bunch of boxes, and the next logical step will be to make sure that the facility will meet everyone's needs, and I think that opportunity will come forward sometime in the next three months, and then after that, how we can make sure that we can make the facility useful based on what we need, what some other areas and what other partners need. So it's moving along well enough to say that, there hasn't been a barrier that slowed us down so far. So I always think on a visionary project, that's a pretty good place to be.
Excellent, thank you.
Anyone else? So Mary Lynn, one of the first times we met, you said, I want Owen Sound to be a college town.
Yes, yeah.
Since then, we've got the new MED program and
Right.
building and everything. You've brought in a dean that wasn't here before with Fred.
Mm-hmm.
You've added some programs. It's great working with the city and with the county. Everything you read nowadays is all about education, working with business, and working with governments to change the world. And that's kind of the basis of economic development. So we really appreciate having Georgian College here and everything, the changes you've made in the last couple of years. And we think this is going to go great going forward together.
Well,
So-
it goes two ways. I forgot to mention, it was in my notes. Last year, we had 14 international students. This year, we have 42 international students. And, you know, you're in the demographic game the same way I am. And you understand, we need talent. We need people who are going to drive our economy. And so, you know, this community has embraced that, and, you know, it's that reciprocal relationship that is so great. So thank you very
And
much.
there is the community group. You're chairing it, aren't you, Richard? So different government agencies or levels of government coming together at the college and meeting pretty well monthly or every couple of months. I'm putting you on the spot.
Twice a year, Your Worship.
But luckily,
It's
I'm
just the
not counting on
perfect
my
number of
fingers.
meetings for me. But yeah, it's a group that's come together. It's my understanding the college did have a community engagement
Right.
committee a number of years ago. So this is sort of a reboot of that group to bring like-minded groups and individuals in the community together to discuss the future and to help out wherever we can.
Right. And we're just so delighted that, you know, in his other hat, that Richard had agreed to chair that group. So it's good to have that kind of relationship.
And we're glad he's chairing it, too.
Good.
So thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank you very much, and now I'm going to apologize because I have to be in Toronto at 7:30 tomorrow morning. And so if you'll forgive a few of us, we're going to leave your council
But
meeting.
Marilyn, a lot
I'm
of
sure
people...
it's going to be riveting.
A lot of people don't know this, but you don't have to go to Barrie to go to Toronto. You can go right down Highway 10, and you can be there in about 2.5 hours. You'll have lots of time before...
And you're going to be
Sunday.
really happy to know that's exactly what we're doing. We're not going back to Barrie. Good. Thank you very
Great, thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Our third deputation is from Mr. Robbins, Geoffrey, owner of Main Street Hair Salon, talking about his walk this year.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just before the Georgian College people leave, thank you very much for looking into hairstyling. I think that would be fantastic for this area, so that's great. Hopefully it works. Thank you. Thank you very much. Through Your Worship, Council, I thank you very much for having us here tonight. Just before I get started, I just got a couple little things. I'd like to thank my staff as well for coming. There's my son Bryce. I wanted him to come here tonight just to kind of see what was going on with council. And also we have Colleen Trask Seaman from Oshare, and I didn't have that on my deputation, so I hope through Your Worship that that's all right if she says a few words as well.
Yep, she'll cut into your 12.
That's no problem, sir. I've been told that I have to be, even my staff today as well, okay? I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. That was fantastic, and we're not quite ready to start. Just got one little thing before I start the actual deputation, okay?
You're 54 seconds in.
Okay. Just before, okay, Mr. O'Leary, Councilor O'Leary, please, just before we get started, this deputation is just to let the council and the city of Owen Sound, the viewers at home, to know exactly what we do. We raise funds for, this year it's our third year of Madagascar, third year of 3, and also the second year running with Oshare. This is not about corporations trying to get their name out. I just want to tell you that right now. This is about helping people less fortunate than us to make it so they have water or also have food, all right? This is not, just because Aveda sponsors it doesn't mean that it's all about Aveda, all right? It's not all about Tim Hortons when they have the Timbits. It's not all about Ronald McDonald House, all right? It's about how they help us to be here tonight, all right? So I want to make that perfectly clear. A few years ago, when I was up here, There were a few things said about our deputation, so I just want to make that perfectly clear. We're here to help people less fortunate, and maybe the people that have said a few things and wrote a few things over the years maybe would like to help us. That would be very nice if they did that, okay? So before I go on any further, I want to have Colleen come up. Come on up, Colleen, and just explain what we did last year.
So last year was the first year that Oshare was asked to participate, and we brought in over $26,000 for Oshare, which was fabulous. It was our #1 fundraiser. We served 20,000 meals last year in the city of Owen Sound, and the walk helped to cover a significant amount of those meals. And so this is a really great fundraiser for us, and we're thankful for all your support and all the generous support of the community and of our volunteers.
Great, thank you.
I think Colleen just mentioned something there, Your Worship. It's about people helping us, okay? It's about the sponsorships, the monies that we receive from the council members, all right? It's about people walking with us, and at that point, that will segue, now, I can't, there's another screen up here, so I'm not as, Mr. O'Leary, maybe you could come up and help me for a minute. You told me that the other stuff was going to be there, so, yeah. This guy's one good guy, I like him. There, he's going to help me with this here. So, my deputation's only a couple minutes old so far, Your Worship? Okay, so we can just...
3 minutes, 28 seconds.
What I'm going to do here, Your Worship, if it's all right, I'm going to kind of narrate a few things. I'll tell you about the walk. It's going to be a nice little video here. So if I click this button, I'm all ready to go? Okay. Double click? Okay, there we go.
In the village of Emberman, they do not have access to clean water. When you stand up for clean water, you stand up for health. You stand up for girls. You stand up for their safety. You stand to ensure education. You stand for the protection of family. You stand up for friendship. You stand to empower women. You stand for equality. When you stand up for clean water, you stand up for the future.
So as you can see with the video, a lot of young girls in Madagascar and different places throughout the world don't have clean water, so they have to, walk 5 kilometers. So that's why we walk 5 kilometers in our walk. And there's a jug in it. Councillor O'Leary, you got a great haircut. You were in today. You saw the jug today. It's 40 pounds, okay, to lift that up. This is last year's video walk. Just there was MPP Bill Walker and MP Larry Miller just helping us out. They've been great supporters. Dr. Hazel Lynn, Dr. Veenstra, and you're going to see, I'm going to just narrate a few of the people that are walking here. There's Councillor O'Leary off to the left. There's Barry Kusabrink's one of our largest fundraisers. A few years ago, he was #1 in Canada in fundraising, and he's the fellow that decided that we should share our funds with Oshare. So that's why we've gotten into Oshare. There we are walking up near our beautiful rec center. As you can see, it was a little bit colder that year. And as we keep going on, one thing I'd like to bring to your attention as well, one of our staff members, Tamara Ebel, she did a great thing. The video was saying, how do we stand up? She did this video, now it's going to be linked on Instagram, so you can follow it on earthmonth.ca. Am I right when I say that? No dot. So earthmonth.ca, am I right when I say that? Okay. And if you follow that, you'll see some neat things. Aveda Canada and WaterAid Canada have both requested Tamara do a Instagram that day when we do our walk. So that's pretty neat that Tamara has been singled out to do that. So I thought that I'd just bring that to your attention as well. So there we are walking up, actually that's just on our way to the liquor store, coming back.
Too much
We
detail.
chose the liquor store.
Water.
It's water, yes. But as you can see, I think one thing that I have to bring to your attention as well is the young people that we have helping us, our young staff. Remember, everyone in this room, if we have young people, staying here and helping out, learning how to help out the less fortunate, realizing that people out there need our help as well, and those young people are staying in our community and having families, and I think that's fantastic to see that, and that's why I said about Georgian College, if they would do a hairstyling course there as well. So there's some of our staff there. There's Tamara, and it looks like Shaylee and Jamie. There we are walking across the street, and usually the guy in the front is either Councillor O'Leary or Mr. Barry Cusselbrink. They tend to walk the fastest in that walk. And I'd like to thank this year Richard Thomas. Councillor Thomas is going to be coming out to do taping again. And maybe we can have a few other councillors. I know Councillor, there he is over there, he's smiling right now. Excuse me. There's been a few councillors helping us over the years, so if you'd like to come out and get a sponsor sheet, I got sponsor sheets here with me today, Your Worship, and there's Mr. Cusselbrink. So really, I think that's about all of our, how much, am I out of time now?
Yeah,
Is that it, Councillor Leary?
Timekeeper?
Timekeeper?
9 minutes.
9 minutes, okay. So that's my cue. So I am, basically, we're done. There's, one thing I want to mention is there's Ian, the great Ian Millen with his beautiful wife, overachiever he is. There's Margaret coming up the back there too. But, and there's Lois, she was in that walk too.
So
Lois
Jeff,
Taylor. There's our youngest walker right there coming through. That's Paul Walker's granddaughter. So thank you to Paul Walker. And we were #1 in Canada a couple years ago. Approximately we raised $210,000 since 2008. This is our 10th year. And that will go on, as I say. Just special thank you. There's my lovely wife, Kim, Main Street staff, Barry Cusselbrink, Paul Walker, and all the other people. Sue Turkis has been with us since day one. Just a thank you to Your Worship. I am done my deputation now.
not quite, I've got a question for you, but
But before I just, one thing, I'd like to thank you very much for you and Councillor O'Leary. I reached out to you the other night to see if you would golf in our July the 6th Ramoka Shrine Golf Club. We have 8 kids right now that we transport from Grey County to the Montreal Hospital, and you're going to play this year in our tournament, so we need 2 more council members, or maybe we can get another foursome.
I still have to get permission, but...
Yes, you have to get permission. July the 6th is that, and that's all I have to say, Councillor O'Leary. I'm done. That's 10 minutes, right?
Okay, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. I want you to tell me when it is, what time, where to meet, just really concise so that last message is.
Okay, the last message, through Your Worship, through the council, I'd like to thank you, the councillors of Owen Sound. You're great people. The walk is the last Friday every year of April, in the month of April. So this year it's the 27th.
So this Friday, the 27th.
This Friday, the 27th. We meet at the hair salon at 3:30 p.m.
3:30 at 8th Street and 2nd Avenue.
8th Street, 2nd Avenue, right across from the beautiful, newly renovated almost City Hall. And from 3:30 till about 4-ish, we do a few speeches, we do a few thank yous as well. And then by 4 o'clock, we start the walk. 4 p.m. The last Friday, every year, April.
So this year, Friday, the 27th, 3:30, 8th Street and 2nd Avenue.
8th Street, 2nd Avenue. And thank you very much to Oshare. They're going to
The
be
money
great
goes
people
to
to work with.
Oshare and goes through Aveda to providing water systems.
Water in Madagascar, what we provide, this is year 3 of 3, the tools, all right, and the expertise to be able to dig the wells and do what they do over there, so.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, I've got questions, I've got more questions.
We got some questions? Okay, I can stay up here a little bit longer then, Councilor O'Leary?
Counselor, I think it was Dodd.
Thanks, Ian. Actually, all jokes aside, Mr. Robbins, I think we all owe you a big appreciation for what you've done here, all your sponsors that have put in their time, their efforts, their fundraising, to make your event one of the best, that's obviously a big influence on some of our community members. So thank you, and thank your staff, the walkers. I know we sometimes make some pretty good jokes on you while you're here because you're a great guy and you let that ride off pretty good. But
That's no problem, I can handle anything.
I think the biggest thing from the public's perspective, is that you're doing a great thing in our community, and it's people like yourself that do those things that make this city better and makes the city what it's supposed to be. So thank you.
Thank you. It's, Barry Kusabrink, Jarrett Ron, those are people too, as well as helped us out from Imprint Guy. He does all of our signage for free. It's his donation to our cause. And there again, it's not about us, it's about the people we're helping, and it's about the people like you people here and the people out, watching us right now that are giving us the donations, and thank you very much.
Perfect. Counselor Lemon?
Yeah, I find it very interesting. The video you showed had the young ladies carrying the water on their heads, some 5-6 kilometers every day, at least once a day. And I happen to have a handout from the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority, and I just happened to look. There are 18 freshwater rivers flowing into Georgian Bay and Lake Huron, just from the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority. We're lucky. We've got all kinds of fresh water, but so much of the world doesn't have that. And a professor of mine at university said, the next World War won't be over land, it'll be over fresh water.
Yes, I agree 100%. We take, Councilor Lemon, that was a good point, we take it for granted, and these people don't have clean water, and like I said, with Oshare, we raised enough money for was it 8,000? When Colleen told me that number, I was really surprised. I didn't realize there was that many meals. 8,000 meals for people of Bone Sound as well.
Thank you. Councilor O'Leary?
Yeah, just quickly, we're way out of time here.
Yeah, but these are questions. These are part of the deputation, right?
I'm
Am I right
talking.
when I say that?
I'm talking.
Councilor Lemons, Councilor McManaman, he's nodding. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I wanted to thank Colleen for coming tonight too to speak. You were by far the best of the two speakers. And Jeff, thanks very much for mentioning I was in for a haircut. What he failed to mention is he charged me $75 for the haircut. Thanks very much for coming tonight. Your time's up. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to both of you for what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Now, public question period. Is there anyone that has a question? Come on up to the microphone. State your name and ask your question.
Good evening, Your Worship. Peter Reed. Quick question, or actually a statement about the DIA budget that's coming up later this evening.
Yes?
They're asking for a fairly small budget increase. I believe it's about 2%. I'd just like to point out that that's also about the same amount that they budget towards an annual celebration for the members that many people don't attend. With the fiscal responsibility that council has shown this year, I would like to hope that the DIA would have done the same thing and passed on that increase.
Well, maybe one of these councillors will ask DIA the question when we get to the report. Councillor O'Leary?
I think if you're going to mention the 2%, you should also mention the 7 straight years you went without an increase.
Yeah.
You didn't mention that?
Well, no, but there would be 7 straight years, and it could be 8.
No, 7 straight years. I think you should be happy.
We'll discuss it when we get to the report, but thank you for your question.
Thank you, sir.
Just one question, any others? No, that's it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Ray? Get you to push the button. Now, Ray, before you start, were you in Madagascar?
I haven't been to Madagascar yet.
You were somewhere. Where'd you go?
I've been across the West Africa.
West Africa, okay.
Mainly northern Nigeria, so 9 times there.
Okay. Go ahead with your question.
My name is Raymond Botten. I'm a missionary evangelist, and I'm a resident here in Owen Sound. Today, I've come as a servant of the Lord to ask a very, very important question towards council. According to the prophet Isaiah in chapter 5, verse 20, he declares that woe to those who say good is evil and evil that is good. And when he says woe, he's saying judgment is coming. Now my question before council, not directed towards those who maybe have a different lifestyle in the whether you're gay or lesbian or transgender. The question is before council, with the flag that is up and coming to be flown during Pride Month, as well as the Gay Pride Parade that has been approved, I must stand as a servant to share that there is a consensus in the community that we must say that it should stop. And what should stop is raising the flag, the gay rights flag, it's because of the agenda itself, and to have the parade, at least I would say, to be honest, as much as I can, is to have more dialogue with those who are concerned and faith groups, because I believe that in council you're very busy, and the agenda with most people who are working may not really know that there has been an approval. They get it down the road, and I think we need to, according to Scripture, call righteousness to account, or we will be judged as a city. So my question is, will council consider not raising the flag come in June, and as well as will the council consider more dialogue regarding the upcoming approved parade?
Thank you for your question. I think I can probably answer that. With regard to the flag policy, we changed it approximately a year ago. I think we did have a public meeting, did we not? Does anyone on staff remember? It is, the laws have certainly changed and become more liberal right across the country with the Charter of Rights. We were one of the last cities that were to reach a flag policy that would include the rainbow flag. We studied all the other municipalities to figure out what they were doing and trying to make sure that we were doing it right. Legally, I think we could have been challenged if we hadn't made the change in accordance with the laws. Now, with regard to the parade, it's much the same. For us to try and say no to certain groups and not other groups, unless they're promoting a hate against other people, we can't say no, nor would we say no. I understand that it's a divisive issue. There's a lot of people from Christian faith and different faiths that don't welcome that, but it's something that really legally moving forward with Charter of Rights and what's going on in our country, it's the right thing to do.
Your Worship, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm about to go, but before I go, humbly, truly, God has visited here tonight with His words. And people of conscience here can stand and say, I made a mistake, I would like to revisit that. But thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone who serves, especially those on the front lines who we don't see. Thank you very much.
Ray, thank you for bringing your opinion forward to us and bringing us those words. We understand them, we appreciate them. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, number 11, there's no correspondence which we have to consider. Number 12, if we can go to 12A, which is the downtown improvement area budget.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attached to this report is the budget as it was approved by the DIA Board, DIA Management Board. The overall budget does include a 2% increase to the total DIA levy, or approximately $4,800. I've also summarized the main variances in the budget. I would note that the increase in administration costs is offset by a transfer to reserves. And through my discussion with the manager of the DIA, this is to reflect a retirement and then some cross-training opportunities. So there'll be some overlap there. It is not a sustained increase that is expected next year, which is why the funding from reserves is reasonable. And, sorry, I just lost my report there. I believe there's just over $70,000 in the reserve at the end of last year. So present here tonight is the manager of the DIA and Mr. Parsons, the chair of the management board. If the council has any questions, I would defer to them.
Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Lemon.
Well, the question was raised about the 2% increase this year. And if you look at the average rate of inflation, which is somewhere between 2 and 3%, that means effectively the amount of money you have has gone down 14% to 20% over the 7 years when there was no increase. So your effective funds have been decreased by that amount. And this year you're asking for a 2% increase, which when you look at all the math means you're still behind 12 to 15% to where you would have been with a moderate increase annually. I sat on the BIA board, and I was very impressed with their transitioning to keep the rates as low as possible. And I have to applaud what they've done. I disagree sitting in the around it and looking at it and say, oh, a 2% increase. 2% is very enviable. And I wish everybody could have done what they have done. 7%, no increase for a number of years, and then a modest 2%. If you want to start criticizing, take a look at Ottawa and Queen's Park. Thank you.
Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I might just direct this through the Director of Corporate Services to maybe the chair of the DIA. With the change in the beautification expense line, you're essentially dropping at $20,000. So I was just wondering, on the sense of that usually that beautification line goes towards flowers, what kind of changes would we see in the downtown core?
Your Worship, Owen Sound City Councilors, I would say we're not going to see any change at all. We've certainly been fiscally conservative. Has nothing to do with politics. In terms of beautification, we have dealt, well, everyone last year, as they looked around, saw flowers the same way they always had. I do believe that nothing will change as we have changed. I'm not sure where you want to go with that question, but yeah.
So,
Okay, to come to the microphone, Deb, just so we can
The
hear you.
$20,000 decrease, last year we allocated $20,000 from reserves to do decorative lighting in the downtown, which we did not do. So that's why so it was a budgeted line in maintenance, or in beautifications. We didn't do it, and we're not doing it this year.
Correct. I just know when, for years prior, that budget line of beautification goes towards our flowers that go onto 3rd Avenue, 2nd Avenue, our potted
They're
baskets.
not, that amount is not changing at all. It's budgeted at the same amount. I believe it's 17.5 in that neighborhood. So beautification is not going to change.
Thank you.
If we look to that, though, and the reason we did not spend that money on lighting is that we had sample lighting in the downtown, and it was not very effective. So we made a conscious decision not to do that. If we could also just speak to our party, if you would, and the expenditure of about $5,000. It's one of the only things that we get a mass participation in. And we are constantly asked if in fact we're having it this year right after it is over, right up until when it takes place. It's a big boost for those who do come, and we encourage everyone to do so. When we put other things out there, including do you want to remain open for statutory holidays? Would you like to participate in the Street Fest? We don't get anywhere close to the participation on any of the events we hold in comparison to that party. So I'll stand by what we do and the participation that takes place. It's pretty positive for most that come out and find out what it's all about. We also do listen at that time, by the way, to anything that is taking place in the community, such that I do feel that we listen to our membership and try to accommodate a very diverse group, including Mr. Peter here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor
Any other
Kepke?
questions that you might have?
Councillor Kepke, there may be a couple of questions. Yes.
Not so much a question, but just a comment. I would like to think that the so-called party is not very much different than an appreciation to your members, the same as City does appreciate its volunteers. To me, all of the businesses downtown participate in so many events, go above and beyond even their hours of business, in their sponsorship of things, all kinds of things like that, that I'm sure that you're certainly extending an appreciation to them with your social that you conduct.
Well, it's one of those things that, in fact, when we talk about sponsorship, many of our businesses say, what can I give this year? It's a great party. So, and they also then are recognized for the things they donate and contribute to what goes on. We don't have to ask for that to take place. It just does. So.
Councillor O'Leary?
Deb and Dave, thanks very much for everything that you do, and your worship, I would move the recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. It's moved. Deputy Mayor Wright?
Yeah, I do. Dave, don't leave. I want to talk to you for a minute. You know, I really think the DIA does a wonderful job, and I cannot understand the merchants. We have a beautiful downtown, but we have a lot of empty stores. We try to encourage, I know the councilors all try to encourage downtown, and I think shopping downtown is wonderful because you can walk from store to store and meet people on the street, and I think it's great. And I don't understand why the merchants can't get together. We have some stores open Friday night and some stores closed. We have some stores open Monday and some stores closed. I just don't understand why they can't all get together and say, okay, guys, this is a sort of a vacation town in the summer. Let's all stay open Friday night, or let's all stay open 7 days a week or 6 days a week, or whatever you decide to do. But when you go downtown and you go to a store and it's 4:45 and the store is locked up, yet it says on the door it's open till 5:30, or if you go and the store is closed up, or we're closed Mondays, then it kind of turns you off because you don't know when you can go downtown. So I don't really get the picture of why. I never have any trouble going to your store. You seem to be open whenever I want to go there, but I mean, it just seems to me that it's they're not working together.
I think I mentioned that it's a very diverse group, and certainly some find that, for instance, they need to go to Toronto on a Monday to pick up stock because of how they operate. Some will take Wednesdays because of the group they belong to. I don't think there's an easy answer to trying to unify hours, but I can say for myself, I'm open 24/7 through my website. And when it came to Sunday opening, I'm not open, but I can tell you that when I get an email on Saturday night at 10:30 as I'm watching hockey, that I can respond to a request to go in and actually make a delivery on a Sunday. And I don't, there's many of us that are in that position of having websites that were open 24/7. So
Yeah,
it's
well-
not as simple as just saying we need to be open certain hours any longer.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that our stores should be open on Sunday, but what I'm concerned about is you're talking that you handle, I'm concerned about that soon we won't have stores to go into, that everybody will be ordering online and nobody will be meeting anybody, and it'll all be kind of done by machine.
Funny you should mention that. I
Yeah.
just came from a regional general meeting, and 90% of product is still bought in stores.
Good.
100% of most of our electronic goods are at least looked at online before a purchase is made. So, and I can say quite frankly that we are up against that every day. It's not particularly a problem. They suggested in this meeting that in fact by 2025, that number 90% may drop to as low as 80%. But there are more issues in our downtown that certainly I wouldn't discuss at the present time, but I feel very positive about what is going on in our downtown and feel that in fact we will see some opening of new stores in the very near future.
I hope so. I'm certainly supportive of it and supportive of what you're doing. Has the motion been moved?
Councillor O'Leary moved it.
Okay,
You're gonna-
thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Didn't you start? Go ahead. You started.
Just one thing, when I sat on the board of the DIA, and one of the things I learned, one of the best places to learn what the membership is thinking of is at the annual get-together. I heard more different views, I heard more different ideas, good ideas, at that time, and communication, that's what goes on at that. And if you haven't attended it, you've missed the opportunity to listen to what other people in the downtown believe about our downtown.
Thank you. Our clerk passed me a note just to clarify the motion that I passed on. So Councillor O'Leary is moving approval in whole of the budget as presented, just so we're clear on that. Mr. Reid, my family is in business for 39 years on Main Street. There's things about the DIA I didn't like when we were in business. There's things that I did like. 7 years ago as a councillor, I was against the budget and it was a fun night. It was like being on the runway with them dropping bombs on me. Since that point, there hasn't been an increase in 7 years. Nobody can do that. You can't sustain without an increase for 7 years. I agree with the other comments around me that 2% isn't bad after 7 years of nothing. One of the things that was said to me when I was a whiny retailer, and I mean that seriously, I was if you don't like it, do something about it. And I didn't. Well, I sort of did. I'm here, but I didn't do enough. So if you want change, get involved, make change. I think there's lots of people that would like to hear fresh ideas on a lot of things, and I've seen that you're pretty creative in a lot of things. So if you've got some things you can add, I know sometimes it's difficult when you're new to a community to kind of get that door open, but if you've got some positive thoughts, put them down in a positive way and send them off, and hopefully they'll get considered. So thank you for your question. Any other comments? Going to call the question then. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Can I jump to 12C instead of to 12B?
Sure.
Which is 8th Street East. See, Mr. Lee is here, so.
Thank you, Worship. This is an application for site plan approval by Edward Lee for the former 8th Street Water Reservoir. So the land was sold by the city about a year and a half ago. You'll see the proposal on the screen is for 12 two-story freehold townhouse units. So there's 3 blocks of 4 units. In January of 2018, Committee of Adjustment had approved the creation of 12 lots together with easements for stormwater and access. There has been a significant amount of technical information and studies submitted together with the application, including the site plan, building elevations, servicing, archaeological assessment, a plan with respect to the reservoir removal, as well as cross-sections of the retaining wall, as well as the landscape plan, which is on the screen. The official plan designates the property residential and permits a range of housing types, including townhouses. The density is less than 20 units per hectare, which is considered low density. The proposal meets the locational and servicing criteria of our official plan. 3 4-unit townhouse blocks are of a form and material and are consistent and will create a consistent streetscape along 8th Street and is considered compatible with the adjacent residential area and is consistent with the city's official plan. The zoning of the site is R4, general residential, and there's a detailed analysis in your packages, but the zoning permits, among other things, townhouses, and the proposal meets the site and building requirements for the townhouse type use. A site plan and servicing agreement are required for the development of the subject property. As we have worked through declaring the land surplus with council and through the consent process, there was public feedback, and it has been an important consideration. A courtesy notice was hand-delivered to residents who attended the Committee of Adjustment meeting, and we heard at that time there were 3 main issues. One was the impact of the removal of the reservoir, and Crozier's Engineering has created an approach to the demolition of the reservoir that will be reviewed by engineering and CBO. They have been, and moving forward, there will be a demolition permit required, but we're confident that that can be removed without impacting those adjacent residences. In terms of traffic, no traffic impact study was required, but there are 12 units, didn't warrant a traffic study. There'll be 6 entrances onto 8th Street. You'll see that those are a Y-type configuration for the entrance, and the street is considered to have capacity for that traffic. In terms of the landscape, you'll see the existing house to the east, and it's hard to see the retaining wall, but the top sketch shows the existing retaining wall with a fence on top of it. If we go back to the, sorry, Brianna, we go back to the other one, and then the bottom picture shows the existing retaining wall at the bottom, a new retaining wall and fence at the top, and then how it will be graded toward the new townhouses to the east. Similarly, this is the existing house on the west side of the subject property. The existing retaining wall is shown immediately right of the photograph with the existing retaining wall, and then on the lower part of the screen is the proposal. The existing retaining wall will stay. There'll be a new fence, and it'll be graded away toward to the townhouses. The grading will fall away to the back, and there'll be walkout basements. If we go to the landscape plan, which is there's a berm proposed along the rear of the properties, which will ensure that no stormwater from this project gets to those homes that are on 7th Street. The rear abutting those homes on 7th Street will be attractively landscaped. There will need to be some changes along that west property line to the landscape plan, recognizing that some of that is sort of perched on top of a retaining wall area. But you'll see that the street fronting townhouses with the driveways there on the north facing 8th Street will be attractively landscaped, and it will be a terrific development for Owen Sound. So, Your Worship, we would, in consideration of the report, we would recommend Council approve the site plan for 12 townhouse units, subject to the 4 conditions outlined in Appendix A, and that Council would authorize the Mayor and Clerk to enter into a site plan as well as servicing agreement with Mr. Lee as 2243344 Ontario, Inc.
Any questions? Councillor Kepke?
Thank you. Through your worship, to the Director of Corporate Community Services. The drive that's coming in a Y shape, the entrance is considered, I'm presuming, a mutual drive, and then they each will go to their own units. So there would be no parking allowed in the mutual area? Is that correct?
That's correct. There will be mutual easements over that, and there would be no parking in that common section.
And also, what is the depth of the lots?
Oh, the lots are very deep. The rear yards are, I think, in excess of 30 meters, and actually the townhouses are set back quite a piece, maybe 15 meters from 8th Street. So those driveways, although, you know, they appear sort of small on the screen, there will be significant room to maneuver there.
Thank you.
Okay. Others? Councillor McManaman?
Just quickly to the director, on that map that's on the screen right now, about halfway through the backyard, what is that line? What is that? It's not on our drawings in our...
If I may, through you, Your Worship, are you talking about the shaded area?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I think that's the rear terraces. That'll be the back of the units of the townhouses. Yeah, so there's a walkout basement.
Okay.
So it would be a terrace or a patio. I believe that's what that's illustrating.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councillor O'Leary?
Thank you, Your Worship. Pam, just wanted to ask on behalf of Lou Hurley and Jake DeBoer, their concern is that there's a buffer established between the townhouses and their property along 7th Street A East. You mentioned the buffer. Is there fencing as well, or are their concerns been addressed?
Through your worship, Mr. DeBoer did attend the Committee of Adjustment, and he was one of the residents who received a courtesy notice, and I think Mr. DeBoer called and spoke to staff in our planning division, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he was quite satisfied with the plan that's been presented.
That answers it. Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship, I would like to move approval of this. I'm very glad to see reservoir lands utilized. It is a moderate intensification, which I don't believe is going to have any negative effect on the neighborhood, but rather enhance it. And the setback of these townhouses, being that far back from the road, is going to make them very attractive to people who are concerned about noise. So, and it went through the accessibility committee today and was approved.
Good, thank you. Anyone else? No, going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Good. Thank you, Mr. Lee. This is great. As Councillor Lemon just hit on, being able to infill property that's there with services going past the door. I know there's some work to be had with the holding tank that was there to be removed, but it's nice to be able to infill, and that was kind of what this council wanted to do when we started, was to get some development going, and townhouses are one of those things we need, so thank you. Thanks, Pam. If we can go back to 12B on the report, which is 10th Street West.
Sorry, Your Worship, I was just checking on that fence in the rear yard. So this is an application...
Did you want to answer that question first? Sorry.
Yeah, there, I believe there is a fence shown on the landscaping plan in the rear yard, and there's also a landscape berm. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
So, sorry, moving to the west side, this is an application for site plan approval for lands that have been vacant for some time on 10th Street West, 872 and 884. So the subject property is shown on the screen in front of you. It's two properties that have been merged. It's 0.7 acres. It's quite irregular shape, almost a triangle, and it has frontage on 10th Street West on the bottom of the screen, 9th Avenue, which is Grey County Road 17, and then Alpha Street on the north side. And then there's actually a small city lane on the north side as well. So the proposal is for a 2,000 square foot convenience store as well as quick serve restaurant. There's a drive-through and a gas bar with 3 pump islands and canopy. So the new it will also be a new sidewalk along Alpha Street connecting to 9th Avenue and then over to 10th. There will also be a sidewalk, if we go to the site plan, that runs, provides a safe place for pedestrians to leave 10th Street. People like to find the shortest route, and if you look at an air photo, there's a worn path through that property now, so there's a spot where the pedestrians can get off the sidewalk, either on 10th or Alpha, and travel through the site safely. There's the drive-through, and there's the appropriate number of car stacking lanes there. The site is attractively landscaped with fencing and landscaping along the 10th Street and Alpha Street sides. There's a privacy fence on the east side to create a buffer to that property. On the west, this is the entry to the city. There are some large existing trees. One of those trees will be removed. It's unhealthy, and then there'll be some additional shrubs and landscaping stone added in that area. The site plan agreement will provide that the owner will maintain all the grass around the site and the landscaping, except in this node where they'll maintain the grass, but the city will do that landscape maintenance as it's on our property. The traffic here will have a right-in and right-out on 10th Street. There will be full move vehicular access at the top of the screen onto Alpha Street. And then where it's hatched, a large transport truck that comes in can drop gas and then exit in that hatched area onto Alpha Street. The median on 10th Street will be extended to prevent cars that are headed east from making the left into that site. So the official plan designates the property West City Commercial, which contemplates the automotive-oriented retail and service-type uses being proposed. The zoning is C2, or retail commercial, which permits gas bar, restaurant, drive-through, as well as convenience store. There was an Ontario Municipal Board hearing relating to this property in April of 2017. The plan, or the proposed variance, was approved by the board and subject to some conditions. One of those was that the site plan generally be in accordance with the plan being presented to the board. In terms of source water protection, through our partnership with Gray Sauble, a risk management plan will be required, as there will be gasoline tanks on this property. So the recommendation, Your Worship, is that Council approve the site plan for 872-884 for Torman Owen Sound, Inc., subject to the 4 conditions outlined in Appendix A, and that Council would authorize a bylaw to execute the site plan and servicing agreement for the development of the subject lands.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Your Worship. The part that comes out, if we can go back to the site plan, that's kind of the bubble on the end. Can you explain to me the landscaping in that area? Like, it's going to be extended further than it currently is that correct?
It won't be extended. Well, there are a number of larger existing trees. One of those trees will be removed as it's unhealthy. There will be some landscaping added, I would say, on the west side of those existing trees. If we go to the illustration drawing that's part of the package, there's a colored illustration plan. It gives you the best picture of what it might look like.
So the landscaping right at the very end will be low, though, so it's not
Yes, it won't be in the site. If you keep
impaired.
going.
And does that change, the configuration is already in that state, right?
Yes, you'll see the trees in that bulb island are existing. Yeah, there you have
Okay.
it. So those larger trees are there now. It'll be enhanced by the lower plantings and then the rock wall. But it'll all be quite low and not impede any sight lines at that intersection.
Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much. I would like to move this. I think it's going to be great to see that corner filled in. It's been vacant for a long, long time, so it's another good news story for the city.
Councillor Lemon?
At the present time, there is only one gas station on the west side of Owen Sound, down on 14th Street, and this will enhance. I'm just wondering, since we own that land, is there any chance to get a sort of like welcome to Owen Sound sign there? Or has any thought been given to that? And if not, could some thought be given?
To this point, Your Worship, we haven't given any thought to it, but we'd certainly be open to direction from council, or we'll look at it. But no, we haven't given it any thought at this time. We've been too busy trying to get someone to do something on their property.
I'm so happy to see that.
You're done? Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to it? Councilor Gregg?
I wasn't going to say much. I think it's great. I just wouldn't agree with what you were suggesting there of an idea. I think this is terrific. Let's let the developer move forward with the parcel and just a new development. And, you know, alongside a new grocery store there, it doesn't matter if it's in a neighboring community, if it's in Georgian Bluffs, it doesn't matter. It says there's something going on as people come into Owen Sound past the McDonald's. So it's all good news there, and I think that's the new development will speak for itself.
I just have one question, and Ms. Coulter, maybe you covered it, but traffic jams trying to get on and off 10th Street, right only in, right only out, correct, on 10th Street? So the alternative is to go on to Alpha Street and come around if you're heading back down. Okay, good. I think at one point, well, at this point, we still have 4 empty gas stations on 10th Street between 9th Avenue East and 9th Avenue West for cars going through, so it's nice to have something that's there that's going to show that we're developing and that just change our image a little bit for people coming through. So unless there's any other comments, call the question. All in favor? That is carried. So I think we're down to 11D. Ms. Coulter, your department's been busy.
They have been busy, Your
I
Worship.
guess Mr. Webb's department's been busy, too.
They
but-
have. The development team is working hard, and you're seeing some of the results of that work. Thank you. GM Blue Plan, on behalf of Ampet Realty, has submitted concurrent applications for site plan approval for 2 contiguous properties at the northwest corner of 16th Street East and 18th Avenue East. The property also has frontage on its north side to 17th Street East. So to anyone watching, this property contains the former Newcom building that has some professional offices as well as a furniture depot, and it also includes the Mission thrift store. The Committee of Adjustment had recently approved a lot addition, so the Newcom property was an L-shaped. The part located immediately west of the Mission thrift store has been added to the thrift store. It was important to address both these site plan applications together, as there are shared servicing and access easements between the 2 properties. So the sites were both developed under site plan control. That development was complete, and the certificates of compliance have been issued relating to that development. So the proposal before you this evening is to add to the Mission thrift store on the west side of an addition of about 6,000 square feet, as well as a covered drop-off and a new loading area. They would expand their parking area on the west side of the building there on the top left of your screen. They would provide 86 spaces where 77 are required, with 4 accessible spaces located immediately in front of the front door. And there would also be an extension of the pedestrian sidewalk which links from 18th Avenue in front of the site, in front of the new addition as well. In terms of the former Newcom building, there'll be a slight expansion of the parking just at the north side of the building there, a new concrete sidewalk as well as parking spaces. And because that building sort of functions in 2 parts, there will be an addition of an accessible space, a parking space in that area with a drop curb and tactile markings. There will be some enhancements to the landscape, and there will be a fence buffer and landscape on the north side protecting that loading area. So in terms of our official plan, the site is designated East City Commercial, which permits a range of uses, including large format retail, home furniture, as well as professional offices. And subject to the conditions, the proposal does comply with the official plan. The zoning of the site is C2 with a special provision that relates to the GFA and types of uses on the site that isn't impacted by the by the proposed site plan. The detailed zoning conformity check shows that the site, as it's proposed, with the consent and site plan approval, does conform to our zoning bylaw. The site servicing and stormwater management has been reviewed by the Engineering Services Department, and the water and sanitary is sufficient. Unfortunately, the proposed building expansion is right in the area where the site is serviced, so those shared servicing easements as well as the servicing will be relocated. Stormwater management is appropriate on the site, both in terms of quantity and quality. So the recommendation is that in consideration of the report, that council, for the addition to the Mission Thrift Store as well as associated parking and easements and parking expansion for the former Newcom building, that council approve the site plan, that you would pass a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the site plan agreement for both properties, and that upon registration of the new site plan agreements, that City Council authorize the release of previous site plan agreements registered on title to the satisfaction of myself. I would also note that this site plan was reviewed today by our Accessibility Advisory Committee, and in addition to the conditions recommended by regarding accessibility, which include the new parking spaces and upright signage, the committee has asked that where possible that they would add the tactile markers per the existing city standard to existing locations where the pedestrian path crosses a driving aisle. And there is one location on the Newcom site where that sidewalk comes in, it crosses a driving aisle, and it would be a real safety improvement if we could add a tactile marking there. So it's a recommendation that will be offered with council's approval to the developer of this site.
Thank you. That's great. Councillor Koepke?
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to move the recommendation, including the requirement that Accessibility Advisory Committee has indicated.
So that change, Ms. Coulter, is being added into the report, so it's as recommended plus that change. Okay, good. Other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Pam. I think you're done for the night, but don't go home just yet. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation of this report is that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to execute an agreement with Coca-Cola Refreshments Canada Company to be our exclusive sponsorship and pouring rights partner. The former exclusivity agreement for pouring rights was executed in January, that should say 2007, and it expired in January of this year. The benefits and commitments of that agreement have all expired, save for the sponsorship rights of the Bayshore Arena Multimedia Scoreboard, which will continue to be branded by Pepsi until January 2021. In February of this year, we issued a request for proposal for a new exclusivity agreement to cover the next 10-year period. We received 2 responses to that request. Coca-Cola's evaluation scored 87.5 versus Pepsi's score of 63.5. We evaluated the proposals based on the following. So there was 10% went to the company overview, experience, and the ease of tying their proposal back to the requirements of our RFP. 10% for their equipment and maintenance commitments. 10% for customer service. 5% for project timing and the ease of transition, and then 15% went for vending machine product catalog and service alternatives, including higher scoring for respondents that can provide a wide range of healthy options and attractive display materials that will encourage good nutritional habits. And then 50% of our total score went to the revenue that would be generated through the program. Coca-Cola's proposal met all of our other requirements as well. Their revenue contribution is summarized below. So a $20,000 conversion fund. These are funds to be used towards any of our incidental costs that we incur in converting from Pepsi to Coca-Cola as our sponsor. So that's signage, menu boards, changing out concession stands, things like that. The sponsorship fund works out to be $2.22 per SPC. I estimate that the city's revenue here would be approximately $3,500 or $35,000 over the term of the agreement. A capital fund contribution, this is not dependent on volume, $20,000 a year, of which $12,500 per year is contributed towards the bleacher replacement that we have budgeted for Duncan McClellan Park, and $7,500 a year annually to sponsor the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. A marketing fund of $6,000. This is cash and in-kind contributions of marketing materials and support. And then the rebates and commissions that we earn through preferred pricing or commissions on full-service vending. The total value of the agreement over the period of over the life of the agreement is $244,000. The capital contribution will be sufficient to pay for the entire bleacher structure at Duncan McClellan, as it was included in the 2018 budget, and this has freed up capital funds to fund overages on 3rd Avenue East and the Harrison Park Pool. The annual sponsorship of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery will be included in the annual operating income and has already been anticipated in their operating budget.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Thomas?
Through you, Your Worship, is bottled water included in this agreement?
What goes into the vending and what is sold through our concessions is the decision of the person or the group responsible for filling those machines. So certainly bottled water is a product that Coca-Cola provides, but it's up to us whether or not we choose to stock our machines with water.
Okay, because I guess my comment would be that we've been approached repeatedly over the years by a community group concerned about the sale of bottled water in city facilities. You know, we always fell back on the fact that there was a contract, a signed contract, and we couldn't take that step as a city. And I think we've now gone forward. We've got a water station coming into the Bayshore Community Center. So I would certainly not be in favor of this unless there's a clause in here suggesting that bottled water should not be sold in this facility.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg? Oh, did you want to answer that first?
I'll just clarify, we are committed to only selling Coca-Cola products. However, Coca-Cola will not be selling any products. It's up to us to purchase the products or decide what gets sold, as long as we commit to that being Coca-Cola. So depending on what our tenants, event holders, or our facilities determine is sold is what will be sold. Coca-Cola is not selling any product themselves.
Follow-up then, perhaps we approve the contract, perhaps there's a follow-up motion that we should have regarding the sale of bottled water in the facility.
Okay. So, going to Councillor Gregg next.
Thanks, Mayor By. I was just going to say, I totally agree with you. However, council decided on this matter either early this year or late last year, and I think even to bring it back would take a 2/3 majority vote of council to revisit it. So I just wanted to make sure it was separated from the motion in front of us here, because I think there's a hurdle that would have to be leapt over before we could look at it, so.
Other discussion? Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much. I think I couldn't believe this when I read the contract. I think it's an incredible contract for us. And it does say in there that it'll provide healthy drinks. And yes, we're going to put a water station in, but I still think we need to offer a choice. And a lot of responsibility has to be up to the people that are purchasing the product as well.
Councillor Kapke?
Thank you, Worship. Perhaps the clerk could clarify Councillor Gregg's comments and just confirm.
That'll be a second motion. We don't need to get into that just yet, because, can we wait? Because right now, the motion will be whether we approve this agreement.
Sure.
Because it's just going to sell us a list of products that we can choose what we're going to buy, as long as it's coming from Coke. If thereafter Councillor Thomas makes that motion or discusses that, then we can get the response at that time. I'm just trying to focus on what will be in front of us here once somebody moves it.
I would so move.
So Councillor Lemon has moved it. And that's moving the recommendation, which is to execute the agreement with Coca-Cola. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Worship. I was actually just going to compliment that agreement as well. That $20,000 of coming a year to the City of Owen Sound to be used towards the bleacher replacement and towards the operating grant for the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. That's fantastic. That opens up for, not only is this program allowing us to make sure we're not going into overages on Harrison Park Pool and 3rd Avenue East. I think that's a really great contract, so I thank staff for putting that together.
Thank you. Others? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. I'm going to suggest that probably the right thing to do would be a notice of motion so it comes back, if allowed to come back by the clerk at the next meeting, if you're going to go in that direction. That gives us a bit of time to research anyway what we can do, can't do. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes.
My question is, I'd like to see a staff report on that option.
Let's wait until we have a motion on the table.
All right.
Thank you. Number 12F, I think, is...
If I might, Your Worship, I was in error earlier. I did not declare a pecuniary interest with this item, and I should have, so I'm so declaring now.
Declaring now?
Yes.
So it's Fire Services, thank you.
Know to put it in writing?
It's new procedures that must be in writing, and the clerk must be able to read it, though.
Now you're getting picky.
There we go, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject of tonight's report is Fire Services Assessment RFP 18Z03. The recommendation is that City Council receive report on Fire Services Assessment and approves awarding the contract to KCB Inc. for a cost of $42,772 and rescinds the previous resolution awarding the contract to Dillon Consultants. At the council meeting of April 9th, council approved awarding the contract to another consultant. The fire chief, deputy fire chief, and I met with that consultant to begin the project. During the meeting, the consultant was very determined to provide the city with several added services that they had presented as extras in their RFP response. It was mentioned that the chief and deputy chief have over 50 years firefighting experience, and they would complete these additional studies at no cost to the ratepayer. City staff had concerns with the approach taken by the consultant during and after the meeting. Based on those concerns, we informed the consultant that the city would not be signing a contract for services with them. Last week, the fire chief, deputy chief, and I met with the second highest scoring proponent to the RFP. We all agree that KCB Inc. is very capable of completing the work, employing a consultative and collaborative approach. With that, Your Worship, the recommendation is that City Council receive the report and approves awarding the contract to KCB Inc. for a cost of $42,772 and rescinds the previous resolution awarding the contract to Dillon Consulting.
Good, thank you. Discussion? Councilor Lemon?
I would so move recommendation.
Any other discussion? All in favor? It's carried. We'll send Councilor McManaman back in. So 12G is a verbal report from Deputy Mayor Wright, Grey County Council.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do not have a report tonight, but I do want to remind everyone that the Warden's Forum is tomorrow at 4 o'clock at Walters Falls. And if you haven't indicated that you're going to be there, if you let me know if you're going, and I will put your name in the morning. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Consent agenda.
Through your worship, on the consent agenda this evening are 2 reports from the Facilities Booking Coordinator, one respecting the Agricultural Society's Barn Dance and the other about Rib Fest. There are minutes for receipt from the Library Board, Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation, Owen Sound Housing Company, and Grace Harbor Conservation Authority. There is a request to fly the Grey Bruce Pride flag in June, and there is correspondence received which is presented for the information of council. A full listing is available at 13I.
Councilor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. Move by myself that City Council receives items 13A to 13I on the consent agenda dated April 23rd, 2018, and further, that the recommendations contained in reports 13A to 13B be approved.
All in favor? And that is carried. So that first one is a barn dance. It's the Fall Fair Board. So May 26th. I didn't notice it said where tickets were available.
Through your worship, I bet you can get tickets at Blue Water Feeds just down the road, and I'm not sure where else, but I'm sure Blue Water Feeds would be a good bet for tickets.
So Bayshore Feed. So yeah, barn dance up at the Fall Fair would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Okay. Not-for-profit housing and the housing company, anything to report? Councillor Lemon, or Deputy Mayor Wright?
Councillor Lemon, go ahead.
Yes, the project is working ahead very, very nicely. The water thing that we waited on, chamber, thank you, is installed. I believe it has to be chlorinated or something, but that will be looked after by city forces. And the site is really moving ahead. There is one request from the committee on that project. There is to be a sidewalk constructed to 9th Avenue East. And because we're going to be going through construction in that immediate area with the second phase, the other additional 8 units, we're requesting that sidewalk be held off until a certain stage in construction of the additional 8 units. And that is in the minutes. That request was passed unanimously by the board.
So that request will come through proper channels to staff and...
believe it already has.
Okay.
It's already gone. It's looked after.
It's been looked after. Okay. Good. Anyway, it's a good news story for the city. We're building actually more units there than one period of 2 years a few years ago. We built as a whole city. So that's great.
Good. Great, thank you. I skipped, if I can go back to the library board, Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Your Worship. Library membership is holding steady at about 11,500 people from our partner municipalities in the city of Owen Sound. Visits are averaging about 20,000 visits to the library per month, so it's a very, very busy place. We've undergone a bit of a restructuring in our staff lately. We had a couple of full-time departures, and library staff decided that we could much more effectively cover things if we brought in some half-time staff to cover the public services desk. What we found doing an internal sort of audit of what everybody was up to was full-time staff were spending their time at the public services desk and they weren't getting their regular work done because the public service desk is so busy in the library. So that's allowed us to be a little bit more flexible. It's put staff back in their workstations and allowed them to do it while we have some separate staff just for that public services station. We're moving forward with some capital projects this year, and Council's well aware of those, the roof, and finally we're going to be putting a carpet in the main floor of the 1972 edition, something that many people will thank us for. And unlike the past where we had a regular roll-out big old carpet, this is going to be carpet tiles is my understanding, so they'll be more easily replaced, specifically in the patterns that really get worn out badly. Aside from that, it was business as usual. Oh, I guess the one thing I should note is it was the 40th birthday of the toy yard this year, and for all the parents in the community who have spent hours and hours in that toy yard, it's quite an anniversary, and it's still well used, I can tell you. I'm up there quite often, and there's lots going on. So thank you, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Councillor Gregg, Great Sawbo Conservation Authority.
Thanks, everybody. There, in the February minutes, not a lot that really pertained to Owen Sound. We had the Conservation Authority has implemented a new accessibility policy, which was the focal point of that meeting. I would mention in February, during the strategic planning session, we had Mike Waters of the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority over, and he provided a really insightful educational overview of new water management, stormwater management steps that they've been implementing over there, and they've worked very closely with the development community over several years. And it was very interesting, and I would probably do it poor justice to try to describe it. Ms. Coulter, I'm sure, would describe the terminology much better than myself, but essentially it's looking at alternatives to the accumulation of stormwater management ponds, which over time create financial liabilities to the municipality when we have to assume them from the developer. And then the whole intent of the stormwater management pond is it takes in pollutants. So now you've got environmentally polluted soil sitting as a contaminated liability that the municipality has to deal with. So they are really interestingly now developing almost natural cisterns, and that's maybe not the right term, but allowing stormwater management rather than to just accumulate and rush off in higher volumes into catch basins underground. It's now an ability to redirect some of those flows into people's front yards, into natural shrubbery, and into tree growth, into front lawns. So it was very, very interesting and informative, and I'm sure we'll see more of this coming down the road. I think this was first developed somewhere in Minnesota, and that's where the initiative is pulling from. But that was quite interesting. That was during the strategic planning session in February. A couple other points with the Conservation Authority. I would like to mention that the tree sale, Earth Day weekend was kind of affected by winter conditions, so the annual tree sale was moved to Saturday, May the 5th. It's been going on for several years. Councillor Kepke is very involved with it through the foundation, so that's a date to mark on the calendars after it was postponed from its earlier date this year. So,
And that's at the Conservation
that
Authority?
is at the
up
Conservation
Eagle Falls?
Authority. Yep.
Okay. Questions? No. Okay. With that, we move to committee minutes for recommendations for approval. First is Community Services. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item on the agenda at the meeting was a presentation by the St. Mary's High School art students, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and the Sydenham Sportsmen. They are working together in a partnership at the mill dam. People familiar with that area will know the concrete storage shed at that mill dam, and it is a frequent target of graffiti. This project would see these, it's been a problem there for many years, and the idea is to put a mural, a wrap, on that concrete storage building that would beautify the area and hopefully deter graffiti. As I said, it's a partnership between all three. The art class will actually be doing the work from St. Mary's. It's a continuous wrap around the building that shows the history of that area from the beginning to present day. So it's quite an interesting looking mural. If you, there it is up on the screen. I won't bother trying to describe it, that's it. The city, they did ask the city, this is a partnership, as I mentioned. The Ministry of Natural Resources is paying $1,300. Sydenham Sportsmen are contributing $500. The St. Mary's is contributing $1,500 and busing students to and from while they do the work. Their one request that we used special paint that is graffiti resistant, and that was $700, and the committee approved doing that through the regular parks budget. So anyway, that will be, and that's to take place in May, so you'll see that change very soon. The second item we dealt with was the Volunteer of the Year, the Senior of the Year, the Youth Volunteer of the Year nominations. That was in closed session. The public will see those names come forward in the not too distant future. We talked about Alexandra Park. That's at the bottom of 15th Street East Hill, St. Mary's Hill. That park, as you know, is due for some work, I guess you'd say. The various capital improvements have been made to date. Most of those involve removing overgrown material, fixing planting bed boxes, removing dying or nuisance trees. Anyway, we are moving forward. Those were the initial capital projects. We're moving forward, hopefully with some additional ones to sort of revitalize that park. These minutes discuss having a meeting with the neighborhood to discuss how they use the park and how they see it moving forward. And then hopefully that will guide our judgment, guide staff and council judgment moving forward in the capital budget for 2019, looking for partnerships in that park to see if we can't, as I said, revitalize it. The other, another item we dealt with was a ball diamond maintenance standard policy. It's basically it captured all the things we do now, but put them in a policy, so it provide clarity for the user groups on the level of service that each different class of diamond would receive. It should enhance ball diamond maintenance, improve scheduling and efficiencies, and maximize the effectiveness of all the different diamonds, establishing clear, reasonable expectations for everyone as you move forward. Let's see, the next item we dealt with was a request on the facade and structural improvement program, a request for an extension to a program we've already approved, but they've asked for more time, 720 2nd Avenue East and 217 8th Street West. The committee's recommending an extension for those two buildings. Another one, we looked at the new facade and structural improvement program, 947 2nd Avenue East, basically beside the Milkmaid. They want to renovate that facade for a new business that's being established in that location, so committee's recommending it will look similar to that Milkmaid, which I think we all think is, or would all think is quite good, and so the committee's recommending approval of that as well. We have dealt with a draft agreement with the Owen Sound and District Market Vendors Association for the use of the Farmers Market building and deck. It's a 10-year agreement. Generally speaking, the city's responsible for the building structural components and capital, and the market is responsible for maintenance. The market pays all property taxes, charges like electricity, gas, water, those types of things. Again, that group, this has been an agreement in place for quite some time. I think that group quietly goes about their business and does an incredible job for our city with the market in one of our most historic buildings. We had a tender out for the Harrison Park Campground Electrical and Water Services. We didn't. We had a closing date of March 15th, hoping to have it done before the summer period. We didn't get any bids on that. That told us we needed to perhaps change the tender somewhat. The plan is to re-tender June 15th with a closing date and a construction in the fall after our summer peak period. It'll be an 8-week construction window starting around September 16th, so the camping season will wrap up slightly earlier than in the past, but we do think that with that change in the tender, we'll get more bids and hopefully get the work done this fall. The last item we dealt with was a report from our planner about the Ministry of Natural Resources policy guide to implement a provincial policy statement as it pertains to wetlands. They are asking for comments and having municipalities comment on watershed planning, and I guess our main comment back to them was that we go through the Conservation Authority here, have had a lot of success and good agreement with them, so we didn't think we needed to necessarily duplicate that process where there'd be a municipal one and when there's already a Conservation Authority doing it. So those comments went ahead as well to the ministry. That is it, Your Worship. Quite a good meeting, long meeting. I would be happy to move those recommendations contained in the minutes.
Approval. Questions?
Approval of them.
Councillor Thomas.
I guess the only thing the question I had is whether there be some sort of a communication strategy around the early closure of the Harrison Park campground, because I know lots of people plan their year around the various times they come, and I just don't want to see people disappointed when they pull up in their camper and find out that in fact the campground is closed early.
I'm going to go to Ms. Coulter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we will certainly be communicating, but our goal is to accommodate those that would normally camp at Harrison Park at the Kelso Beach site, close to the Salmon Spectacular, close to fishing, and so hopefully we don't lose all that much business, but we will communicate.
Councillor Kepke, I think you had your
Thank
hand
you,
up.
Worship. I did. I noticed on the minutes, there's an item 14B, which is building statistics, and I wondered if you might highlight some of those for the public.
I would, except my computer just crashed. Talk amongst yourselves. Here.
That's fine. We can catch them up next time. Thanks.
We'll do it next time? Okay, so...
I have the mayor's laptop here, and it's got all these secret notes on here I wasn't aware of. Anyway, sorry. I'll move adoption of those minutes, Your Worship.
And all in favor? Oh, wait a minute.
I had one other question.
You did have a question, okay.
Thanks, Mayor. My question is, from periodically I have people ask me about the market and why is it not open more than one day a week? Is there freedom in this lease if the vendor, if the market wanted to be open more than one day? I just wanted some more information on that.
Do you want to answer that, Councilor McManaman?
Ken, you mean open as a market more than one day? I have had that discussion with the market manager, not recently, but in the past. A number of his vendors are already at other markets, so it would be difficult. He was concerned if, say they opened on Friday, a number of his vendors are at other markets. It's certainly something they can look at, but I do know that has been discussed in the past, and their board didn't think it would be successful. But by all means, I'm there a lot of Saturdays. I can raise it again with them and just see what their view is. But they have discussed in the past looking at summer openings, perhaps Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or something like that, and their board really didn't think it would be successful, but certainly I can raise it again.
Ms. Coulter, anything to add to that?
Through you, Your Worship, just to add to that, there is in the agreement an appendix that includes the form that you would fill out. So if you are wanting to use the market or the deck area, there is a provision for nonprofit and for-profit groups to do that. And it is amazing every week. When you're coming out of City Hall at night, all the things, coffee houses, all sorts of activities, meetings, it's used often at lunchtime, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for a lunch group. So there are other things other than the farmers market happening, but I know I've had a similar discussion with Tom, and their vendors do go to other markets, other days of the week.
They also updated the kitchen a few years ago, and there's sort of like startup businesses that use it a couple of days a week too, I think. Lunchtime. Okay, Councillor Lemon?
Well, when I was chair of the farmers market many years ago, we did open Wednesdays in the summertime, and it was successful to a degree. The problem wasn't there was not enough promotion of it, but it did bring people into Owen Sound during midweek. And like in the corn season, people were coming in and walking off with a couple bags of sweet corn, tomatoes, that type of thing. It was very lucrative for some of us.
Thank you. So I'm going to call the question to approve those minutes. All in favor? That is carried. 14B, Councillor McManaman, is a closed session from Community Services.
All right, I would move adoption of those minutes. That's the one that dealt with the Volunteer of the Year and Senior of the Year and Youth Volunteer of the Year. I'll move adoption of those minutes.
All in favor? That is carried. Thanks. 14C, minutes of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Advisory Committee. Councillor Thomas?
Yep, thanks, Your Worship. The meeting, most of the discussion was around reports. Council has already seen at our last meeting the year-end report and the audit of the Betwixt and Between exhibit. We had another roundtable discussion, again, furthering our discussion on community outreach and what direction the advisory committee might want to go in terms of bringing the community back in, and I'm happy to report that we will be at the Seniors Fair on June the 6th, handing out information about the Tom, and we'll have membership forms there as well for people that want to stop by and hear what's going on at the gallery and talk to some of the advisory committee members. With that, Your Worship, I would move acceptance of those minutes.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. 14D, minutes from Operations Committee.
Thank you, Worship. First up, the airport news. The committee agreed to move some money around within the airport budget to allow for crack sealing the runway. The center of the runway was done in 2016 and the west side in 2017. This will complete the runway at a cost of $9,000. The plan is to reallocate $5,000 out of capital for a new blade on the tractor, $2,500 for brushing along the side of the runway, and $1,500 out of the grounds maintenance budget. A decision was made to end the contract with Creative Outdoor Advertising. They own the tired-looking benches halfway up the 4 hills and one at the transit terminal. The plan is to replace them with standard park benches as budget permits. There were changes made in allocating $450,000 towards cathodic protection at 24th Street West and 10th Street West that was in the capital budget. The recent decision by council to repave 9th Avenue East has put the trunk water main back into the forefront for cathodic protection. Also, Grey County has approved the repaving of 2nd Avenue West between 10th Street and 14th Street, and it's necessary to replace 9 services and 2 fire hydrants before that paving is done. With the recent funding announcement for the 10th Street Bridge, staff will have to start preparing the water system for the time when the bridge is taken out of service. Both the main municipal and spring system feeds from east to west on the bridge will be cut off. The total budget will remain at $450,000 for the necessary water system improvements. And finally, Mr. Ritchie had an additional item in regards to the airport restaurant lease. The owner of the restaurant had a 10-year agreement with staff for $15,000 plus tax a year. Since then, the owner has said he would agree to $12,000. We as a council decided to do work at the airport in good faith as we thought the 10-year lease would be signed. The committee decided to ask the owner one more time to agree to the original deal. If there's not an agreement, we'll move forward with the RFP process. And with that, Your Worship, I move approval of those minutes.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Lemon?
Yeah, I understood the agreement originally was for $15,000, and he's suggesting the agreement was for $12,000. Do we have something in writing to support our position of the 15?
That agreement was made with the owner. It was a verbal agreement with the former Director of Operations, with Chris Hughes present, and it was agreed upon that it was $15,000 plus tax a year.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
And further to that, it is in the minutes. It is in the operation minutes. At the time it happened, it was reported and put into the minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor of approval of those minutes, and that is carried. So we're down to number 15, matters postponed, and there are no matters postponed. Number 16, motions for which notice was previously given, and we have none. Discussion of additional business. Ms. Coulter?
Thank you, Worship. On the screen is the billboard for the Home Expo. Just a reminder, this is happening here at the Bayshore Community Center this Saturday and Sunday, Saturday 10 till 4, 10 till 5, Sunday 10 till 4.
Great, thank you. Great image.
Yeah, is that?
Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to send out a congratulations, excuse me, to a very familiar voice on Bayshore Broadcasting that will no longer be there. After 56 years, Ross Kettner is retiring, and there's a come and go for him this Friday between 11 and 3. So anyone wanting to wish Ross a happy retirement can stop into Bayshore Broadcasting between those hours.
11 to 3.
11 to
CFOS.
3 at CFOS on Friday.
On 9th Street.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Boy, that's quite a career. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll keep it brief since the third period's about to start.
What's the score?
Coming up 2-1 Toronto at the end of the second. Just saying. On Friday, May 4th, we are having an opening reception at the Tom, and I would like to invite all of you and all of the members of the public to come out. It'll be an interesting opening. There are 3 new exhibits opening, and the one I'm most excited about is Trailblazers, Tom Thompson and the group of 7 in Ontario Provincial Parks, which will be a beautiful showcase of the permanent collection of the Tom, and something of which all Owen Sounders should be justifiably proud, I think. That is Friday, May the 4th at 7 o'clock. Remarks begin at 7:15. I do not plan to be remarking. The Community Waterfront Heritage Centre, it's hard to believe they are celebrating their 5th anniversary. Seems like a long, long time ago. That is going to be on Tuesday, May the 1st at 7 p.m., and the AGM is on board the Chichimon. The special speaker is Eric Conroy, who is the ceremonial captain of the Keewatin, and he'll be speaking. A Seed in Owen Sound Built Confederation is the name of his talk, and certainly anyone that's interested could contact the museum and come out on Tuesday, May the 1st at 7 o'clock. And finally, a fun night on Saturday, May 12th, the Festival of Northern Lights annual trivia night is on, and so for all of those with head stuffed with trivia, that's the night to go out at the Bayshore Community Centre and help raise money for a good cause. Everything goes into the coffers of the Festival of Northern Lights and helps to create new exhibits and keep the ones that they have in great shape. So thank you, Your Worship.
Good, thank you. Deputy Mayor Wright. I added you to the list.
I'm just saying, the Sports Hall of Fame dinner is the same night as your opening. That's
Yeah, it's
not
the
a
May
good
4th.
thing. That's not a good thing. You'll notice we're all wearing yellow daffodils. April has been Daffodil Month for the Cancer Society. So anyone who has not made their contribution as of yet still has the rest of the week to do so, or at any time, but that's why we're all wearing yellow daffodils.
Are you covering the hockey team too?
You want me to do
Sure.
that? I would certainly be very happy to do that. I think we owe congratulations to the Owen Sound Attack for the great showing they did this year. It was wonderful entertainment, and of course the Attack brings a lot of people into our community, and it's unfortunate that it didn't go further. I think they could have, except for about 1 minute during the game that happened, but other than that, they might have still been in it. But they were a good group of young men, and not only playing hockey, but they are wonderful in the community. They go into the schools and they work with young people, and they do a lot of good community work while they're here. So they were a great team this year, and congratulations from all of us, I'm sure, and we look forward to next season.
Good, thank you. And for those that are looking for something to do without hockey, there's a much better Canadian sport. Fastest game on 2 feet. Summer lacrosse, Owen Sound, it all goes together. Junior B lacrosse has started already. They've had their first game. I think I just saw their next home game is the 27th. So that would be this Thursday. The seniors have started to practice already. Minor lacrosse has started to practice, so if you're looking for something to do, check out the schedule, come to the arena. It's a great sport to watch for the summer. If you're a hockey fan especially, it's, I still think it's superior. Because I've got bad knees to prove it. Thanks.
We each have our own.
Well, Deputy Mayor, you should start coming out to lacrosse in the summer, not to play, just to watch.
I've been out to a few of them. I caught a lacrosse ball one time just by putting my hand in the air. All landed right there.
So, number 18, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, Councillor Dodd, that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
And all in favor? Carried. Formal proceedings, motion to adopt.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wright, that the action taken in Committee of the Whole in considering public meetings, deputations, and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be confirmed by this council.
Great, and all in favor? That is carried. notices of motion. Councillor Thomas, do you want to put one on?
I sure do, and I'm happy to take any guidance if I've got it wrong here, but I hereby give notice that I will move or cause to be moved a motion at the next regular council meeting to prohibit the sale of bottled water in all city facilities which have public water filling stations.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Bylaws?
Through you, your worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to execute a facility use agreement with the Owen Sound Forest School to operate at Harrison Park, a bylaw to execute a partnership agreement with the Grey Bruce Home Builders Association and the Knights of Columbus respecting the Home and Cottage Expo, a bylaw to execute the 2018 downtown maintenance agreement with the DIA, a bylaw to amend the sign bylaw to regulate commercial and industrial signage and alter requirements for fascia and projecting signs, and a bylaw to execute a beverage supply agreement with Coca-Cola for the supply of non-alcoholic beverages at city facilities.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that bylaw numbers 2018-051, 052, 053, 054, 055, and 056 be passed and enacted.
All in favor? That is carried. So that completes our business for tonight. It is 9:10 PM, so we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.